Hey everyone, on today's episode, I have my friend here, Alyse, who's visiting from out of town, and today we had a really good time talking about all your needs.
Yeah, literally every element of life. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
We just wrapped up fun, by the way.
Sleep is a universal and vital requirement for all human beings, playing an indispensable role in our physical, mental, and emotional health.
Okay, so I put down 3 hours daily for my food. This is like an interesting topic for me to do, especially because I've had experiences with a really complex relationship with food. So for me, I was like, oh, okay. So the first thing that comes to mind is eating. And how often do I eat? Do I skip a meal? Do I actually dedicate enough time to enjoying my food? And I'm a counter eater, so I'll like grab something from the fridge, eat it at the counter real fast, and that's something that I've been trying to break as a habit. So I think that I may have actually overcompensated with what I actually do eating wise. Maybe kind of like ideally how much I would have liked to have spent eating. But I do feel like I have a complex relationship with food because I've struggled with an eating disorder. So a lot of my time is thinking about food, not just like prepping it or meal prepping it, but like thinking about how am I going to eat during the day or during the week, which is also something that like takes up a lot of my time.
And then, are there any habits that you are breaking? Like, is there a particular thing that you're trying to break?
Yeah, I mean, like I think I need to have a more structured schedule with eating sometimes because I often get really passionate about my work and I get carried away. I'm an artist, so I get engrossed and then I'm like, shoot, I'm starving. So I think a habit that I'm trying to form is like having consistent meals throughout the day so that I'm not skipping, and maybe dedicating more time to food in my life. I don't even think about food in the sense of the time that I dedicate to it. And I like thinking about it in that way because most often I'm thinking about how much am I eating, not how much time am I taking to eat. And kind of reframing my brain, it reminds me that like eating is not just about the food that I'm having, but the relationship that I'm having with my food.
Tell me, how do you manage your home? What do you do well? What do you struggle with?
I, over the years of becoming an adult, have gotten into a pretty good habit of cleaning up my mess when I make it. Um, I'm I live kind of a very unpunctual ADHD sort of lifestyle where I have a lot of different hobbies. I'm often running behind, and the thing that would get compromised a lot um, in being behind and rushing is I would make a mess and I'd say, okay, I'll clean up later. And I think that as I've kind of grown, I've realized I hate the sort of thing where it's like this huge mess and then I have to dedicate an hour or 2 hours of my day to finally like get a hold of it. Whereas now I think I have a better habit of like little bits of time throughout the week that as I'm making the mess, I kind of have a handle on it. So I think that for me, that has been something that I've been really proud of and managing. And I think the thing that I don't do well is like bills and paperwork and budgeting and managing the more like detail shit of being an adult. And often like put off a lot of things that I feel like I want to feel relaxed in dedicating small bits of time to, right? So like it's daunting for me to think about, I don't know, investing my money into retirement or whatever hell like that I should actually be thinking about. And if I were to just say like, okay, Alyse, you're gonna do a little bit of research today, just like 20 minutes, half an hour. I just haven't built up the courage because to me it's so daunting. And so I haven't figured out a way to like integrate that sort of time management or integrate that routine into my life of like having a good pulse on like the people side of managing a home.
Yeah, and so there are struggles with home in the moment, and then there are also struggles with like future
Yes.
life and future home.
100%. Like in the moment sort of things of like housekeeping, I'm pretty damn good at. Like I grew up you know, with 2 siblings, kind of poor, had to do your chores. Like I know the discipline of keeping things clean and keeping things well maintained. But like when it comes to investing into a future of what it means to have a home well kept, like am I going to be looking into changing apartments, or like, because like my rent just spiked, so like what is that going to be? Like I don't invest as much time as I'd like to into the planning of that.
Alyse, tell me about your family.
Okay, well, first off, I just have to qualify that I love my family. I'm very, very close to my family. There's some of the closest people that I can be like my true authentic self with. So I often go to them for emotional support, advice, grounding, fun. I don't get to see them in person very much, so a lot of the time when I'm investing time into them, it's phone calls, it's maybe like mailing a care package to my sister. She's super stressed. She's in grad school, so she needs the support. And then I don't know. I put 1 hour a day, which felt very small to me with how much I think about them. But if I were thinking about like an average of how much I think about them, time that I put into texts or phone calls and things like that, I don't need a whole lot of time. Like they're like one of those things that if you invest a little bit of time, it's like this golden droplet that just like goes a long way, and it lasts and it feels sustainable. So though it's 1 hour, it's like this concentrated hour of maybe I have a half an hour phone call with my brother, or I don't know. And to me, I'm like, I'm set. This is so good. Like I don't quite have that with my friends. Like the difference between my family and my friends is I feel like the time that I invest into my family is like, so good. I know when I'll need to call you back, but I'm good for now. Whereas friends is like a consistent sort of, I need it. It's like I need to have that social interaction more regularly. But yeah, it's the time that I dedicate to my family, I guess to summarize, is like extreme quality. The quantity doesn't reflect how much I love it, but the quantity in that 1 hour is just like.
Tell me about how you find fulfillment in your career.
Independently, like as myself, I find fulfillment when I do my best work, which is when I am proud of what I'm creating. But I often have learned that I enjoy my job the most, though, when I separate myself from my work and I realize that I'm not what I do. And it's actually the relationships that I build and the people that I support and the sense of purpose and belonging that comes from being in a community that has like a shared vision and a shared experience. So I really enjoy a lot of elements of my job, which I work for the University of Michigan. I am part of their marketing team for the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And I do a lot of photography and videography and graphic design. And for me, a lot of those elements are remote. My job is very hybrid. But I find that the most fulfilling parts of my job are when I'm actually dedicating the time to be with people, and building relationships that feel impactful and purposeful and intentional and authentic.
What do you gain from those relationships?
Fun.
That's a good answer.
I learn. I feel like part of who I am is I'm a really curious person. I'm very hungry for self-growth and for discovering how I can be the best person to the world in general. And so I think that my job often I look at as a learning experience for myself, as much as it is like demanding product and creation, especially a lot of creativity on my end. I am always looking at how I'm developing as a professional, because that's half of why I do my work, is to build who I am. And so I think what I get from those relationships is learning from others' perspectives and how to collaborate better and just be a better communicator and a better service to the public, because working in marketing is really like the world is my audience, right? And so I'm always trying to learn about the world to figure out how I can, be a better person and also be a better person at what I do.
Alyse, you're an artist.
Yeah.
Tell me about your art.
I have to balance my time with that side hustle much differently than I do with my 9-to-5 job, where I have a boss telling me you need to work 40 hours a week. It's much more intentional. I have to carve out the time. And that involves like maintaining relationships with clients and seeking out my own projects and gigs, as well as investing time into it as a hobby, because it's more of my passion career, and I want to keep the passion and love for it alive. So it's much more tactical in the way that I invest my time into that job, in the sense that it also involves a lot of investing, keeping the love for it alive, which I think is a very personal experience that I have to constantly check in on and say, like, I need to dedicate more time to this. Like, I'm not carving out enough time. Or what sort of time am I carving out for this? Is it the more technical work? Because being an artist, being a painter, the time in which I dedicate to my art is really unpredictable. It's driven by the heart, and it has to have an element of inspiration in it. But I have learned that putting structures in place to instigate the routines of inspiration is also a possibility, because I used to think like, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like dedicating the time to it. But a lot of writers will tell you that if you carve out the time to write and you start to get into a routine, the inspiration will come. It's not just like a whimsical, illogical thing. There can be structures to it. So I know I kind of touched on a lot of different points, but it's a bit more of a complex relationship of dedicating my time to my own business rather than the job that I'm employed to do.
So it sounds like the challenge is, here is a passion, and the passion itself has time difficulties. And on top of that, you have to run a business, which has its own unique set of challenges.
Yeah, right. So it's like when you're doing what you truly love and are truly passionate about, and not saying that the job that I'm employed to do doesn't have elements of that, but I've carved out and designed. Okay. I've carved out my own business because I love it, and I feel like it's something that I can really passionately contribute to the world. It's a lot of work being an entrepreneur, like and I wouldn't be doing it unless I really wanted to. And so the element of passion in that work feels like a flame that comes and goes sometimes, right? Like, oh, I don't have quite as much inspiration to do this work here. But it can't be only driven by my passion. It needs to be in the work, but also I need to have the discipline to do that job beyond the life force of why I'm doing it. So, you always have to remember your why, but when the why is not there and you're having an off day and you don't want to invest the time into it and you have other things that are on your plate, it's challenge to remember that just taking any small step that you can to dedicate to your work is really integral for its longevity, for its life source, for its surviving the day-to-day busyness of all the other things that are required of you. You have to be intentional. You have to say, like, it's a little bit more like exercising. It's a little bit more like nobody's telling me that I need to go out and go for a run. I'm telling myself, and it requires that sort of discipline.
Can you tell us one more time where we can find you?
Yeah, AlyseGunther.com.
Alyse, I hear you love sleeping.
I do. Sleep is so important to me. It is like the sacred thing in my life. I'm just not the right person if I don't get enough sleep. So I actually put down 7 hours of sleep, and that's probably pretty true to reality. Like, it's not necessarily that I consistently get that. Like, trust me, I stay up late, and I do compromise my sleep in ways that are fine. But on an average day, on a good day, 7 hours of sleep is really important for me to be like mentally there and emotionally there. Like, I'm cranky when I don't take good sleep.
And you were saying something about not being able to sleep when you're stressed.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if my mind is kind of running wild with thoughts, which I try and practice a lot of mindfulness, and sleep and rest are very similar. And if I'm not well rested in my mind, I will be like keeping myself awake. I'll struggle with some insomnia when I'm dealing with a lot of anxiety or imbalance in my life. So if work is on my mind or some of my relationships are on the rocks and I'm overthinking things, it often kind of impedes my ability to get the sleep that I want.
Which then affects your next morning. And
yeah, absolutely. It's like a domino effect that, like, you know, almost getting stressed about getting enough sleep stops me from getting enough sleep sometimes, because something will be stressing me out and I won't get enough sleep. So then the next day I'm like, okay, well then I really need to get a good night's sleep tonight. And yeah, it just puts its hands into all parts of my life of how focused I can be, how present I can be with the people I love. Yeah, it's kind of the core of keeping myself centered and my best self.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
So good.
All right, Alyse, tell me about your health.
Okay. I love my health. Health is something that I dedicate a lot of time to in my day. I put 3 hours, which is probably like a low compensation. But I dedicate time to my mental health with mindfulness. So I practice meditation, and I put a lot of time in for my physical health as well. So I love to run and play sports and work out. And so those are the two things that kind of come to mind for me is my mental and physical health.
Tell me about your routines.
I meditate 10 to 20 minutes a day, usually in the morning or afternoon. My other routine is like probably 5 days a week I work out. So I try and put those rest days in, but I actually genuinely love being active. So it's like it's more of a challenge for me to have the rest days. But I play sports a couple of days a week. So that's time dedicated to like group physical activities. But most of the time it's like me going for runs, working out on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think this is where we give a shout out to all our K-Cup friends.
Hi, guys. We love you.
Alyse.
Hi. Yes.
Tell me about your friends.
Okay. My friends are great. They matter so much to me. They're the things that keep me sane. They help my mental health, and I need social interaction on the daily, especially with the people that I can be my most authentic self with and talk about, what's stressing me out, what's exciting me, what my passions are. They're there for me in ways that teach me how to be there for myself. And it really inspires me to be a person that is just like incredibly present for them and support them in however I can. I know you were going to talk about how I put it as normal rather than great. And I think it's because I'm constantly feeling like it's something I have to actively put my mind to. Of Alyse, make sure you're reaching out to your friends. Make sure that when you're struggling with something that you're not suffering alone. And make sure that you're carving out the time to see them on the daily or weekly basis, because I think it's something that, again, it's not a requirement of my time. It's something that I have to be intentional about. And so I think if it was great, it would be like maybe I have those regular routines that I don't have to think about. Like on the weekly basis, we go out to drinks on Thursday night and do trivia. It's like I've tried to put those things into place, but our schedules fluctuate so much. So I think it would be great if I carved out a regular time that didn't require so much intention and planning and thought, and I could just have it as a, like, I know I'll see them sort of feeling.
Is there any message you'd say to your friends right now?
I love you guys so much. Thanks for being in my life.
Well, clearly we're having fun.
Yes. This was my fun for today.
Awesome.
But also, I have to be completely honest. Like, I put maybe like 2 hours in the daily for fun. Fuck, I have fun all day. Like, that's kind of like how I'm trying to live my life, even when I'm doing work and doing stuff that I don't like. Like, there's some sort of element of fun that I always try and just like put into my work, which is maybe being a goofball or not taking myself too seriously. So like technically, ideally, I feel like 24 hours a day I'm having fun. I hope I'm having fun in my dreams. Like fun is so good. And I think it's important to like have fun, planned fun, but also carving out the time for fun to just happen. Because I think so much of fun for me is like being spontaneous, and like there's a sort of importance to have extra time in your life that's not dedicated to anything, to allow like fun to happen.
Yeah. So then what is difficult about scheduling for fun?
I think I've gotten a lot better at it over the years. I think Alyse 5-10 years ago wasn't thinking about scheduling fun. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of happening.
Because we were all like in the same place.
Yeah, right? Like we were all in college, and where I was living with 6 of my friends. And fun just happens when you're in the kitchen making like midnight snacks. Like the shit just happens all the time. And now I think since I've graduated, since I've become an adult, and you know, friends aren't as close, I've had to be really intentional to say like, but that dynamic can still happen. I can still call up my friend last minute and say like, hey, what are you doing right now? You want to just go grab a drink? Like that spontaneity is still possible, even though our adult lives kind of make us think that it shouldn't be, or that it's more challenging than it actually is.
Yeah.
It's like the mental barrier. I think it's a mental barrier.
Of not having fun.
Yeah, right? Like, I don't think fun is a focus as much as it should be in adult life.
We would agree.
It seems like it's not productive, and it's like this side burner thing. It's like I don't know, like if you're making a huge meal, it's like oh yeah, you'll have, you know, a little candy at the end. That's the fun. It's like, no, I want my main course to be fun.
Yeah.
And maybe that's spoiled, but I also think that everybody deserves to have fun in their life.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. That's why we think it's a need. Like, you need to have fun.
Yes, 100%. I subscribe.
Awesome. I hope you guys are having fun too, because we are. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Alyse. Really appreciate all your answers.
My pleasure.
And we hope that you got something from this. Please like and subscribe. I would love to do more of these conversations. Yeah, thank you again.
Go DemiTool!